is our new shop. It's the same building that we filmed all the early Mad Fabricator stuff in. We kind of redid everything, and I mean, we filled it up with our own stuff now, but this is Midwest Fabrication. I went from building my hot rod and some other cars and working on people's cars in my dad's shop to like trying to start a business, and I didn't know which direction I was going to go. And, you know, then I got a call to move to Austin. So I moved to Austin. I partnered up with a bunch of guys there, and we had a really, really special shop, and I put my heart into that, and I learned a lot. And we met a lot of people, did some things, built some cool cars, and at some point it was time to come home, and the main reason was we had a little baby, so just wanted my family to be complete. I mean, really the best thing that happened in Texas is I met Jeff Peterson, and you know, now it's weird. When we started Mad Fabricators, we were the punk kids. We were going around interviewing all these old guys, and they were telling us how it was. They were showing us the rules, teaching us how they did it and why, and how exciting it was back then. We had our own special time. We created a whole new time period of hot rodding that will go down in history. I mean, it was a unique spark, and it wasn't just us, it was just happening everywhere. All the shows and all the guys with the kind of traditional hot rod movement, we kind of all grew up together. We were young guys with hot rods, and we all were like, yes, you have a hot rod too. And we became fast friends, you know, like Jimmy White and Wiesner, all those guys, Alex Gambino. God, Alex Gambino rules. He really does.
He does.
But so all of us, we kind of grew up together, and now some of those guys are like, they have some of the nicest, most successful shops in the country, and now it's time, I feel, for us to pass it on a little bit. And not that, I mean, I'm still learning every day. I'm not done. I've got tons of stuff I got to build, but we're at a new level. It's a new thing. It's like we've evolved, you know. So now it's like, well, let's teach these guys and keep it rolling. And when I met Jeff, we had a lot of kids come and go out of that place, and I've had a lot of helpers, kind of like right-hand man guy help me, but I've never ever met someone who has that passion that he does that reminds me of me. This is a crazy frame that I built a few years ago, and I have plans to turn it into a car this year, so this is pretty exciting. It's going to be a pretty wild little car. Can't wait. Can't wait to get to this one. You know, a big part of what we've done, or what we used to do, was build our ace hole style frames. And chassis fabrication has always been a focus for us because, you know, it kind of dictates the car. It's the stance and everything, and live wires under one of my little ace hole frames that I built a long time ago. And it always bothered me that they looked homemade. They looked like you could build them in your garage, and a lot of people have, which is awesome, but I wanted to make something that was more manufactured. So we're in the process of coming out with a frame, which will hopefully be in the next couple months. It's kind of like the next level, you know. I feel like I was here, and it's weird, I was in Austin for 6 years, and I kind of feel like I never left, but now I want to just do everything at this high level, push things way beyond what I can do. So our whole hot rods for the working man, I mean, that's really what it's all about. All the cars we love are all cars that were built by guys who built them and drive them. Over here in the corner is it's kind of my little corner. This is my 3-window. This is like, you know, you go to work every day, and some guys, they go to work and they're like, oh, this is my job, and then they leave their job and then they have their hobby. Well, I don't really have a hobby. I don't even know what that is. I just have hot rods, and we build all these hot rods, and for me it's like this creative outlet. Every one of these cars, I build them in my head really fast, and then we refine it. Well, this 32 has been in the works for me for as long as Mad Fabricator's been around. I keep upgrading. I buy and sell and trade and swap, and I finally think I have the combination of everything I need. So it's an old 32 body, chopped back in the day. It's all old leaded, 53 331 Cadillac with a Krager driven blower, Krager intake. This motor actually was in my little white truck from back in the day, and I sold that truck, and it was kind of heartbreaking, but I kept the heart, and now I'm going to put it in my coupe. So I'm excited. Now we've been at it for a few months. It's been 6-8 months of being like open as business, and it's a daily grind. I mean, it's definitely ups and downs, and fun times and low times, and sometimes we work too much, and other times I feel like we can't ever work enough. But it's happening. I mean, we're creating a brand. It's like all of a sudden I see pictures and people just randomly have our t-shirt on or our hat, and it's like, whoa, it's really happening again. So I mean, here we are, and I mean, I think it's all of this stuff, this last 10 years of road trips and all those times we were up all night talking about brackets on hot rods, or how they did the Nerf bar on this car, or what that guy said about his car and how he did it, how the Alexander brothers painted the first candy paint job in the snow on a dirt floor. All of those things, and all of our experiences in Texas, and I mean, it's all come together that this is where we are now, and I feel like we're on the path to do something special. I want to take what we've learned and apply it. It's like you go to college. You get some experience, you get some knowledge, and then you get out and you either sink or swim. And now here we are, and it's time to sink or swim. This is Jeff. Hello. Yeah, he works with me. We work together here at Midwest Fabrication. And kind of the best part about hot rodding is thinking about how you're going to build the car and the mock-up, and you have it in your head, and then you put it together, and we have all these parts all over the place to try to make a whole car out of it. And like, maybe this part will work, or maybe that part will work. It's mocking it up. You're letting it tell you what it wants to do before you actually like nail it down and build it into a car. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to mock up Jeff's Roadster. He had some projects that were like kind of long-term, and some really nice cars he wants to build, but he just wanted something to beat around on.
Bob and I have been looking around on Craigslist and Ham and found this one, and I just kind of glanced over it, and then we came to the shop, and Bob's like, "Did you see that yellow hot rod?" I'm like, "Yeah." He called the guy, and then it turned out to be our friend Skeeter that we met in Austin at the Revolution.
I was like, "Yeah, this is Bob." He's like, "Oh." It's like, "This is Skeeter." Only he didn't say Skeeter. He said, "This is drunk Skeeter." But
yeah,
he might have been drunk both the time we met him, and he might have accidentally put his hand on my leg, and I might have had to tell him to not do that ever again. So it was a little awkward, but there's nothing but funny love for that guy. Yeah, it was a funny thing. There's a really good crew of guys over there in North Carolina. So it turned out this car belonged to our friends. So it was kind of destiny. So we drove to North Carolina and got it.
It pretty much is channeled, I don't know, about an inch below the X on the firewall. And I measured it, and that's 10 inches. We measured from the bottom hinge, and 7 inches is cut off the bottom of the lower part of the car. 7 inches is gone. So we figured, I don't know, what is that? Like, we figured maybe a foot channel?
Yeah, I mean, it's a typical old East Coast car. Roadsters were king, and low was king. So it's probably rusty, maybe. Yeah, and maybe the easiest way was to just channel it and cut off the rust and kind of fold the end over. It's really funky. The doors are welded shut. It's got this crazy windshield frame. Everything about it is just kind of weird. But it's all really cool. Together, it's really awesome. It's an old hot rod.
Yeah, so it looks like a Volkswagen right now.
Yeah.
I mean, when we lower it on the ground and we put the wheels and tires next to it and make it look like something, it really changed the whole car. I know that those guys in North Carolina, like, they were really turned off by it. They thought it was a really goofy, quirky looking car. And then as I started mocking it up and posting pictures, they were like, "God damn it." So, I don't know. It was pretty cool.
34.5 window with the roof cut off. doors welded shut, turned into a roadster with the interior rolled over. It had an original 34 frame that was very, very hacked up. It was really, I mean, it had been welded on. It seemed like it had a bunch of different engines in it and steering boxes. So our first initial get it in here, and we thought we would save the frame, but it just wasn't worth it.
We were trying to find 34 front sections, and they didn't have them. And so, I just wanted to make things happen. So Bob was like, let's try 32 framing. We'll graft them in. And it seemed like a good idea. And this past few weeks, Kenny and I and Bob, and we've been working on trying to straighten it up. And we put the front frame section on there, and it really looks good. It flows really well. We put a Model A front cross member in it, and then took the rear 34 cross member out and I flattened a 40. We're gonna be making a new middle cross member.
Yeah, so now the plan is just put it together. I mean, it's just, we're not building it. We're basically just seeing what it's gonna look like now with these new front frame rails. So we're gonna put the front end under it quickly, set up a rear end under it, get it on 4 wheels on the frame, set the motor in with some blocks, and then we'll lower the body back down, and we'll just kind of keep moving stuff around until we know where he wants to put it. Then at that point, he's gonna blow it all apart, and he'll put it back on the frame table, and he'll nail everything down. But there's just a lot of questions that we have to answer, so we're gonna mock it up.
This front end, Bob set me up with an old chrome front end. I got a dropped axle from my friend Johnny, and I think Titus dropped this axle. And so we decided that I wanted a really, kind of a crusty, flashy front end, I guess, I don't know. And so I got some stainless, and I'm filling the whole axle with stainless plate, and then I'm gonna polish it. I got chrome wishbones. I'm gonna get some chrome backing plates. It's a 46 Ford front brakes and rear end. And
the whole goal of this car, this isn't like a high-end car. This is a car that it was pretty reasonable. The parts are all pretty simple. So we're using a lot of stuff that's just laying around the shop, and the whole goal is to build a car that he can have some fun with while he finishes his other cars really nice, so it's just, we're trying to recreate kind of what could have been on that original build and make it pretty authentic. And yeah, so when someone sees it, it's not like, well, what did, you guys built that thing. It's more like, where did you find that thing? We want it to look like a whole picture, like it always was that way. So I think we're on the right track. This is kind of a broad thing to do, kind of but I think
it was so bad though that we had to.
Yeah.
With
Overall,
the new metal.
It'll be pulled off, and it'll look really cool and convincing when we're done. Now let's mock it up.
And I guess we could set it, I don't know, right under here, I guess.
We're putting together the front end, and we're not even tightening anything. We're just kind of dry assembling it so we can get it up on 4 wheels. Actually, all this old chrome stuff came from an old 34 truck that this guy gave me all the stuff from years ago. I used some of the parts on my 2 trucks, and then this is all the leftover stuff. So it'll be pretty cool. But basically the idea is we're just trying to get it up in the air, the frame. We're not, nothing's final. We're gonna have to take it all apart a million times, so we just wanna get it up in the air, kind of get an idea of where we're at with the way it's gonna sit, where the cross member is located, where the motor's gonna be in the frame, front to rear, where the body's gonna sit on the frame. That body was channeled really far back in the day. So I think he's going to unchannel it a little bit to give it more space for sitting in it, so you don't kind of sit on top of it. And ideally, there's going to be enough room so he can drop the seat down a little bit in between the frames so he can sit in there like a sports car kind of, you know. If you have a model kit, you kind of find all the pieces and where they go before you put the glue on. And you know, because if you put the glue on and you put the wrong piece in the wrong spot, you're kind of screwed. So that's what we're doing. We're not using glue. That's Kenny.
Hi, Kenny.
Break time.
All right, so now we have the front end kind of mocked up. We have this old rear end that isn't the rear end going in the car, but it'll hold up the back for now. We kind of want to work our way from the front to the back. So we'll get the front end bolted on, set the engine in it, just block up with wood or clamps or whatever the rear end, because the rear of the frame is probably going to get Z'd a little bit. So anyway, all this
I can't hear him talking when you do that.
I know.
I like it sitting that high in the back.
Yeah, this is why we mock things up, because we were trying to make it low in the back, but now it's kind of awesome.
It's a whole new thing. It's a whole new car.
Yeah, it's cool.
Whoa.
See, this is why don't let Jeff tie knots. This is an episode of that. Wow.
You have a hot rod again.
It's a car. Yeah. We got there and Skeeter had this deck lid in the garage, and he found it came with one old taillight, and it looks like it's 49 Lincoln with the bars cut out of the light. And I got one. Kind of goofy, but that's what was in it, so I think that's what I'm gonna run. It's kind of goofy hot rod, but it works. I don't care that. Look, they just torched it out. Wow. That's pretty common, I guess. That's the subframe in this thing was really like the middle cross member was just like this, just torched out. So have to remake that. It seems like it has all these holes here. Like maybe it had like some sort of rack, and then Ford hinges up here, and then it's got these here, and then the same one here, one there, one there, and one there, and then for hinges. So maybe it had something up there. I don't know. So I think this is like a 40 Ford mirror. I think it's molded in, and then it had a gauge here. It had an old speedometer. Not in the best shape, but it'll work. It still works. It still spins.
Awesome.
This was what was left of the dash. No gauges in the main plate. Pretty much just that, like,
Whoa.
the crazy wood they used to put in there. That was it. And then this had the same thing. This was on the passenger side. And this old radio was just hanging in there, just like that.
That's awesome.
Kind of set this in here. Kind of a pain in the ass. It just screws in from the backside. It looked like it had, like the windshield used to be chrome. There's not much chrome left, but. And look, it was just screwed into the A-pillars. What's cool about these A-pillars is they're made out of round stock. Those are handmade A-pillars, and they have this like edge on the backside, they wrapped some sheet metal on the back, so, and shaped them. That's not normal. The pinstriping is pretty cool. It's only on one side of the car. Like it was funny that some of the North Carolina guys were like, yeah, they gave up because the car was so damn ugly. Just stopped halfway. So they only pinstriped halfway, and it used to have this kind of like a screen door aluminum paneling that went on the inside of the firewall here, and I needed to get to the back so I could mount the master cylinders. So I drilled out the pop rivets, and then I found more striping, and I guess they changed it out because it was all rusted, and there were so many holes drilled in this firewall and torched out that's probably why they put that panel in. So
Just to hide it.
so I started filling the holes and found more striping. I'm just gonna leave it and kind of match the paint as best I can. There's this on each side of the car, same shape. Maybe it was like some sort of badge.
It had to have been some sort of badge.
It's on both sides on the same spot.
Huh.
Then there's these chrome masters. I got these off the ham, and so I'm gonna run hydraulic brake and clutch.
Nice.
So I mounted those up, and I'll end up like matching the paint, of course, but just try to clean up as much of that torched out stuff as I could. But it's pretty bad. It's kind of weird that it has all this custom molded doors and everything, and it still has a cowl vent. You would think that they would have leaded that over.
Maybe
It's got a windshield wiper. So these are the Cycle Fenders off Twilight Zone. It's a Survivor Model A coupe. And they're not for my car, but I had to see what they look like on there because I plan on making Cycle Fenders myself. These are caps that Johnny found at the Jefferson swap meet. They were solid yellow, and he started taking off the paint. They were chrome, so I guess the chrome started to get crappy, and they painted them yellow. And the yellow is pretty much the same exact color. He said they were meant for this car. We're gonna try these now and see what it looks like.
So it turns out that, like a lot of old men that you just I think are innocent old men, at one point they were true badasses. And the guy he got that motor from is one of those guys. He's a flat track racer with Triumphs, and his garage is like full of all this stuff and race bikes and old parts. That flathead was sitting in the corner, but he wanted too much for it. It was like worth too much. I was like, well, maybe you guys can work out a deal.
And then next thing I know, I got this, and it's an old runner. It came out of a pickup truck that his friend had, and his wife like sold the engine out of it. Remember that?
Yeah, they got divorced.
Yeah, they got divorced or split up, and this guy, he got a free engine from his wife, from his friend's wife. So it actually was an old hot rod motor. It had these Edelbrock fin heads, and it had an Offie 2 intake. And then I found some heads at a swap meet, and this intake I got recently to match them. Grand Core 3.2 and 59 AB Grand Core heads. So I'll be running those. And I have some old chrome Strombergs and Scott tops that I like to run on. Motor's in. We just got some temporary motor mounts that we tacked in there, and I guess now we can I don't know, we'll put an intake on, carburetors, and see what it looks like. these, we were at our friend Little Chris's wedding in Missouri. One of our friends said there's some hubcaps at the antique store. So we went down there and they were 16-inch moon covers. I think these are the ones. They're my favorite so far. They just match really well. And the yellow one is the one that came with the car. It's kind of beat up and doesn't have a very good shape to it, but it's the one that was with it. So we'll try it.
I like the framework a lot.
Yeah.
That looks pretty good.
That's about right height.
It doesn't look so bad anymore.
No, I always thought it looked pretty good.
Skeeter went back to the old guy's house and grabbed what was left of the interior, and when he went there, he found the old top, and it was just like lying in the mud, I guess. Just full of dirt. It's not really savable, but it has a really cool profile, so I always like putting the top on because I'm going to eventually have it remade. It has the side curtains as well.
What's that?
This is my favorite piece of the top. Side curtains on a Roadster are my favorite. Like I said, I don't know if they're not savable, but make a good pattern off of them when we remake the top. Came with the bows, seats, and these are actually the door panels and the seat backs. So they wrap around. Kind of tucks in there on the kick panel. Now it's like your seat back here. I can set the bows on there so we can get an idea how that worked. Because the top's pretty cool itself. So these are MG bows that they widened in the middle on each of them. And what's cool about this top is, as it folds out, it actually clips into here, and there's a wood header that they handmade that's in the top itself. So what's cool about this top is, it only goes up halfway. You fold it up, and that's as far as it goes. So top opens, you jump in, you close the top back down. So you either have the top on, or you have it all the way off.
Yeah.
This is that homemade wood header panel, and this clips on the windshield frame. The bows bolt into the back of the header. Just set. Isn't that cool?
It's so funny. Oh, that looks so cool.
Way better with the top, right?
Wow, that looks
Changes the whole car.
It does.
We make a nice pattern off of it.
Yeah.
Might we make the bows or whatever, but has this cool Weber Performance sticker in the Weber Performer. I don't know what that's about. But. So the headlights, they were on the original frame, as well as this grill shell, and it has these really cool old mounts. They were pretty common back in the day, but I think we're going to use them. And so it had traces of like old blue paint on a few of the pieces. How's that look?
That looks awesome. Wait, hold on.
Take two.
Take two.
Oh, he totally wants to fall again.
I'll do it quick. Whoa, that looks fucking cool. Yeah, I like that, man.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think that's it.
We gotta find a cool way to get in this thing. This is great. I love this top so much. I wish we could just leave it. So, we got it all mocked up. Next step is to get the motor running. I have to build a subframe and kind of get my floor laid out. I got to set up the transmission, torque tuber in, stuff like that. Then get the brakes run, gas lines run. Just start going through and making sure the motors run, kind of just filling in the blanks.
Now everything has its place. You know, he knows where he needs to put it. Now it's just a matter of doing it. You know, the thought and the decisions are kind of made.
This is awesome. I love this top.
Now we just have to, you know, make it a whole car.
Good job, man.
Thank you.